Hello and welcome to another episode of this city building tutorial series in Unreal, where today we're going to be adding in some cost management. You can see at the top of the screen I have a money counter. It's very basic UI. It's basically telling me I've got £19,000. Every time I put down a road it costs a bit of money. I can switch to putting hospitals down and they cost a lot more money. And then it gets to the point where hospitals that cost £6,000 I can no longer place down because I don't have the money for it. I can switch back to my road tile, carry on placing those down until eventually my funds are completely depleted and then I can't pay anything down. So that's the crux of today's video. I hope you enjoy watching it. If you're enjoying the series, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. That'd be super helpful. And if you have any feedback, as always, just drop it in the comments below. Right. Without much further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start by going into our game modes folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a blueprint class, and this is going to be a game state base, like that. And we're just going to call this city builder game state. And then just to do this from the off, open up the game mode base, and then in your game state class, change that to the CB game state. And basically what a game state does is, if you think of the game mode as what actually holds all the rules and runs the game logic, the game state just holds the variables and all the data for that. So they kind of work in partnership. So this is why I'm creating this game state, and I'm going to put the money in here. So I'm just going to create a new variable, and I'm just going to call it current money, and make that an integer. And let's just set it to default to 20,000, like that. Now let's go back to the main game. If I open up the game mode base, from here I can just do stuff like get game state, and then I can pull this out and I can cast this to the CB one, and from that, if I actually just expose this variable, and then the game mode has access to it. In fact, I might as well just make a utility function now, right? So let's create a new function, and this function is going to be called can afford object. It's going to have an input and an output. The input is going to be an integer, and we'll call this object amount. And then the output will be can afford, like so. All we need to do is let's just do our get game state in here. Just move that in. So we're going to cast to that. If the cast failed, we're just not going to run any more logic. That's absolutely fine. But if this came back as true, then we want to check that this is less than or equal to the game state's current money, like that. Oh, sorry, it's all getting messy again, as blueprints do. Plug that into there. Let's pull that out. And then actually, we don't need to do a branch or anything. We can just plug this boolean directly into there. So let's just check that this logic all lines up. If the object amount being passed in, so if the building is £100, if that is less than or equal to the current amount of money we have, that will be true, and we can afford it, so we return true. That's all we need to do for that one. Let's actually create another function, and we'll call this one object bought. Again, this is just going to take in an input. We're going to just do call this the same, so we'll call this object amount. And we can actually just do a quick check on this using the function we've just done. So can afford object. Let's make sure that we can actually afford this object. So we'll do a branch. And if we can, then we get our game state, We cast it to our CB game state. We pull out the current money. We'll do a get first, and then we'll also do the set current money. And it's a simple case of it's the current money minus the object amount. So do a minus on the integer object amount, pull that all the way in, plug that into there, and just align all these. Okay, so there's our two utility functions that we'll make use of. So that's cool. So that's all we need to do for that for now. Can actually close those down. I'm actually going to just first, before we add into buying objects and stuff, I just want to actually represent on screen how much money I have. So go to your main HUD widget that we made a few episodes back. And I'm actually just going to add in a text box here. Drag that on. I'm actually going to anchor that to the top middle. Okay, so let's anchor that to the middle. Set that to 0 for now. I actually want this to be like bang in the middle and then middle aligned. So the size of X, let's set that to 150, and then let's set that to -75, so we know it's always in the center of our screen. And then the text can expand and stuff. And what we want to do here, Unreal has some really useful functionality with UI. In the text, we're going to click on this little bind drop down, and we're going to create a binding. Now, this binding will essentially determine what string is displayed. So with the return node, you'll see there. And what I'm going to do here, all we need to do is we need to get game state. That return value, let's cast it to our CB game state. And then assuming that this actually succeeds, we're going to create a string. So as the game state, let's get the current money. And then if we drag that, Unreal will do the cast for us, which is good. Plug that in, compile, save that. Let's actually, this is just called get text 0. Let's give that a nicer name. We'll call that get current money. Just make sure that that's set to the right thing. Cool. And then the default text, let's just clear this off. Okay, so if I hit play, you can see at the top it says I have £20,000, which is really cool. I could spruce this up a little bit in the future, but I'm not going to for this episode. I'll probably spend a full thing updating all my UI to actually make it look pretty, because right now it isn't. What I might actually do quickly is just change the text color to green so that it, green and money is very synonymous. So let's just change it to that. Hopefully that might make it a bit more viewable. Yeah, so it looks like I've got 20,000. Okay, cool. Right, so the next step is actually using that money to do stuff. So what I want to do is I want to add in a check for when I'm placing objects down, whether I can actually afford them or not. And if you remember, that was all done in the ploppable component class that we made. I've got this road placeable check. So I just need to add another check after that to say, hey, can I actually afford this? So the way I want to do this is I want to know if the building I'm trying to put down, the thing that's ploppable, has a price. So let's actually start there. That's probably a better starting point. If I go into my objects and I've got this placeable base asset, which if you followed along, it's a pure virtual, and all the road tiles and all the building assets, they all inherit from this one asset. As you can see my healthcare base class inherits from it, and my road tile does. So let's just open this up. I'm going to add a new variable in here, and I'm just going to call this cost of object. Maybe that's a better word. That is going to be an integer, and let's expose it. So cost of object by default, it's not going to cost anything. That's absolutely fine. If I now open up my road tile, What you can do here, because this is inherited, by default you won't actually be able to see that variable pop up. If you just click on this little eye icon under the My Blueprint thing, and if you tick show inherited variables, I can now see my cost of object. So I'm just going to overwrite the default for the road tile, and let's say a road tile costs £100. This will change and we'll balance this later. We'll also do this for the healthcare base class. So cost of object. This is going to be more expensive, so 6,000 to make a really small basic healthcare base. So I need to go back to my ploppable component. I'm going to create a new function that's going to be the cost check. And in here, what I need to do is I need to get my owning actor for this component. I'm going to cast that to a placeable base asset like that. If the cast fails, that's fine. We could be placing something down that isn't one of these base assets. We shouldn't be, but we could be. So I'm just going to get out the cost of this. So get the cost of object. And then if you remember, we added those extra functions to our game mode. So if I do a get game mode, pull this down here, we need to cast this to our game mode like that. So as our game mode, what did I call it? Can afford object. Plug that in. And if this returns false, and only if this returns false, then I want to set the isPlacementValid to false as well. The reason I don't want to set this for true is, I'll kind of show you that in a minute. So yeah, make sure that gets set to false. And compile and save that. Go back to my update state. And then after the road placeable check, I'm going to do the cost check. And just put that in there. So the reason I'm only setting it to false if we can't afford it is so that all the other logic still runs for checking whether placements are valid. And then this is just like a final check on top of all those to make sure we can actually afford the thing. Right. And then the other thing I need to do is actually lower the amount of money I have if I place down an object. So I believe that was in the player controller in the spawn building. Yep, already in that function. That's good. We've got the placeable actor, which is a placeable base object, so that's already useful for us. Oh, there's a note on there. Okay, so all this comes in. All right, yep. So we just need this placeable base asset. We're going to pull this all the way over here. We're going to get the cost of the object. And again, we're just going to get the game mode. We're going to cast that to our game mode. Cast to CB game mode base. We should have already done the isValid checks here. This isPlacementValid will be false currently if that previous check has failed, so that's all good. And then as the game mode base, we're going to say it was the object bought, I think we called it. Yep. Plug that cost in. Let's just build it or buy objects just so we can neat enough all this a little bit. Compile, that compiles, that's good. Let's give this a test. So got to place that. My counter went down. Look at that. Let's get a healthcare building. Healthcare building didn't go down. Interesting. If I go back to the roads, so the roads currently are going down, but the buildings that I'm placing are not. So let's just have a quick check of that. Right, I did find the issue actually. If I go back to my player controller, this logic that I put on the end, it only actually runs if this road manager stuff runs. So if the cast here fails, never actually gets to this cast. So that's what we need to rectify. So if I just drag the cast into there, I make this a little bit neater because blueprints are not neat. Drag that and then plug that into there. Oh, it's done that. Sure, it's done that way. That's lovely. Thanks, Unreal. Might as well get rid of that then. Just plug that into that. And then move that so it's a bit nicer. And hopefully now it will always run. Move these down. Hit play. So road's still by. I'll switch to my healthcare building. And yeah, the 6,000 is coming off every time I put one down. So now you can see that the building is red because I can't afford it. If I switch to my roads, I can put down a bunch of roads. I might actually not have enough space to put enough roads down to test this. Oh no, well. And so I should get down to 0 and then I shouldn't be able to place down any roads. So 200, 100, the last one I can place down, I can still place it. And now it's red as well. Okay, cool. So that was actually quite simple in the end. Hope this video was useful. I did see some of you asking in the comments for this, so I'm hoping this is kind of what you were after and it has helped you in some way. I'm going to move on to actually generating a bit of income in the next one by hopefully putting some zoning stuff down and starting to get citizens into the simulation. I want to be able to actually, now that things have a cost, you should also have a way to earn money. So that's kind of my thinking there. If you're enjoying the series, it'd be really nice if you gave it a thumbs up or a subscribe, all that stuff. Any feedback in the comments, please let me know. I'm trying to do requests so that I know what to get to first, because otherwise I'll just kind of meander on and go about doing stuff in my own slow way. So yeah, any feedback is much appreciated. I, again, hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks very much again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.